Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fix My Fees podcast, where merchant processing is so boring. I bring in interesting people to talk about their business and hopefully share some insights with you guys. I am your host, Tavius Washington, and today we have with us someone that I feel like takes a different direction than what I've had previously on this channel. This person is an author, a leadership coach, the founder of the company Share Your Courage, and also the creator of I think it's called the Reimagine Retirement, right? Where you really help people and professionals design a fulfilling, purpose-driven last chapter in life. Everybody, please welcome with me today, Dale Power. How you doing today?
I'm fine, Javier. How are you? Thanks.
I'm doing good. So I do talk with a lot of people and different things where they know exactly what I'm talking about, right? I'm like, okay, cool. Facebook ads person, the lawyer with compliance. And people can go, okay, I know what I'm getting when I'm talking with this person. But it is a little bit different when we're talking about someone who's enhancing the last chapter in life. And there's many different ways that you can go about it. So I kind of want you to just start with telling a little bit about what is it that you do? And tell a little bit how you've actually come to this point in being able to help people with their retirement.
Sure. I'll be glad to do that. I had a marketing consultancy for 25 years, and I worked with many owners who eventually sold their businesses and thought that they would be fine, playing golf and traveling and having a great time. And they planned their finances, they planned their estates, and they got out and they found out that for 6 months, they really enjoyed that. And then at the end of about 6 months, they looked around and said, what else is there? And one of the things that happens is all of the marketing about retirement, all of the messages are financial. And so they lead you to believe that if you plan your finances in your estate, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about a thing. And what they neglect is the huge transitions you're about to go through. And transitions, change is pretty hard for a lot of people. But 3 big ones at once can be pretty overwhelming. So after COVID, I just wanted a new direction. And had this very interesting event, I guess would say. It was a Sunday morning, and I skipped church, and I went down to a great museum exhibit. And on my way in the door, it was February. Nobody calls me, my phone. And it was a guy that I'd gone to Villanova with a long time ago. We'd been a good friend, and we'd lost touch. And I knew his voice immediately. And he said, I'm calling to say thank you. And I said, what are you thanking me for? And he said, you saved my life, and I want to make sure I said thank you. He said, can you remind me what I did? No memory. And he said, you knew I wanted to go to medical school. And he said, you knew I was slapping badly. And he said, you were furious with me. And he said, you sat me down and told me all the potential you saw. And he said, in that moment, everything changed. I started working, went to school in Mexico, came back, passed my boards the first time in Chicago. 3 years in University of Chicago, invited me to teach. Then Sloan Kettering gave me a brilliant fellowship and 4 years later, Harvard. And he said, I'm at the top of my career. And it was only because of that conversation. And I went, thanks for booking me. And my next thought was, every single day, we could decentralize this. And that started me, because of having worked in a school for kids with learning issues before I started my marketing business, really interested in people taking diverse paths. And kids with learning issues always take diverse paths. And so COVID came, and I started thinking about that a lot more deeply and noticing how many people were really having trouble with putting together their retirements in a way that was satisfying. And so I started Share Your Courage as a response to that. And out of that is the Reimagine Retirement program. And it's a 3-month program. It meets twice a month. And it's limited to 8 people per cohort, because then you have very close community, and it's a very collaborative. It gets very collaborative very quickly. So, and it is what we do is we take a deep dive into first storytelling about challenges met, opportunities accepted, opportunities missed, dreams postponed, dreams challenges and dreams that were very fruitful, and people that we've loved being here. And we start to get a sense of some things that are important where if you ask almost anybody on the street in the next day, if you ask 5 people, what do you really know? You're going to get surprised by the answers. A lot of them will tell you 10 things they don't know. They have a hard time telling me that they do know.
Yeah.
And so we access that. That is the deep dive. And then we go into what are the skills we've developed using? What are the values that you hold? Yes, and we can shift it since you live
Mm.
and what kinds of people you love being around. Because one of the big shifts, one of the big transitions is you move from a work community to whatever. You may have a fragmented community. You may have no social life on the other side because you were working all the time or traveling and working all the time. Or
Right.
you may have a pretty robust community. And if you have that, that's lovely. But there are people that are surprised by that. So I met a financial planner a couple of months ago who had a brilliant business, extremely successful. And he had a board of directors, and they said, you have to sell your business. And he went, I don't want to sell it. He goes, I'm not going to. And he was older, but he was sharp as a tack. And they said, no, you have to sell it because you're going to get the most float in that. And he said, well, I want to stay in it. And they said, okay, you can do that. Well, the problem was everybody only wanted to work with him in that business. So he did get out. The minute he got out, his work community stayed there. He was not expecting that. His wife was a school superintendent. She didn't. And they looked at each other because they were going to age in place. And they went up. And so they started looking for a CCLC, which is a retirement. And, he has been very interesting because he's put together, he was being entrepreneurial. The entrepreneurs have the least problem because they're always reinventing. But he runs a podcast and he is very active in his retirement and is, as busier than a boredom. And there are many people that have figured out how to do this, but it's not everybody. And some people really have a hard time imagining, and they can be brilliant, absolutely have incredible careers. But what they are is they're curious. They like intellectual challenge. They want community and connection, and they may not know how to pick up. And those are the big pieces.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. And I know there was like a part where you were talking about how they think it's going to go versus how it is. But there's also a part of it of like, when should they start to plan? I think one of the things with a lot of people when it comes to selling their business and then waiting for what's next is they think they have enough time until they're ready to sell. And then it's like, man, I'm not looking. So when should people start to think about like that level of it? Is it years before? Is it right before? Like, when should they start to look into maybe?
When they start to think about it, when the minute you start hearing yourself say, I might retire in a couple of years, that's a good time to start. Because the more deeply you go into this process, the better it will be. Because you have time to see what's out there and what options are out there. And, when you identify the things that I just talked about, it's interesting how opportunities appear. So one of the people, I interview people that have reimagined their retirements. And one of the people I interviewed recently was a guy named Bill Schott, who ran a multi-billion-dollar engineering consulting practice. And he's done projects all over the world. Very bright guy, obviously. And he mentors people, young, old, rich, poor, inner city, suburban, college students, housewives, retired people. He is all over it. And he put together something like Shark Tank for Delaware University. And that's they have prizes for the winners. And he just does that a lot. But he also plays sax in a band. He's on the historical commission. He is very busy. He's 84 years old. And he's not showing any signs of slowing. He's a very interesting guy. And he's all of his interests are halfward, and he identified all of those things as things that he wanted to be part of in his life. And he just did it step by step. He did it step by step.
Got it. I like that. Okay. So when people start to get that first inkling of maybe I should, maybe I'm not, that's when you should start planning. I do feel like most people wait and they start thinking about it. It's like, oh, well, I got some time. And then they go back to the motions and completely forget about it.
Time is a myth. Time is, yeah, I think that's exactly right. And the more time you have, the more opportunities you can explore. Another myth that's part of that is people think of how people think of service, because I have come to believe that service in a broad definition of it is how we find meaning. It's the core of meaning. People often think of service as volunteer, and that is just a piece of it. Service can be working one-on-one with someone. It can be working with a group. It can be doing all kinds of. It can be doing strategy because we love it. You're good at it for a different organization. It can be many things. And you think about, somebody asked me, I'm on LinkedIn with a bunch of people, and somebody asked me the other day, what do you think would be something that companies could use their retired people for? And I said, doing a mentor program would be great, because you think of how hard it is to find them, and you have to look for them, right? You can't just, and they don't exactly wear a sign on their chest saying, I'm a mentor today.
Right. There's then bright sign up.
And there might be, you might want to put some training around some of that, but it wouldn't have to be a lot. And you think of the experience and the depth that could bring to a company, the people leaving, wow, that would be important. And that could be small companies, big companies, be all kinds of things there. I do some volunteer work for a school that has each child in that school, every single one. And when they leave that school to go to high school, they're given a mentor. And when they leave high school to go to college or trade school, they're given another mentor. So they have an adult in their life that isn't their parents helping them that is going to be. How awesome is that?
That's cool.
It's really cool. How come no one's thought of that for everybody?
I don't know, but that is awesome.
It's not rocket science.
Right. So these are some of the ways that you're combating, like, and one thing that I've seen, I've even had people who've come on my podcast who have like sold their business, and like the first thing that happens, you don't realize how bored you get. Right. How bored you get, it directly affects like what you end up doing. So you're helping them find meaningful ways to keep from that, whether it's impact,
I promise you will not be bored. Yeah. And I have another friend who I didn't know her real well, but I've known her for years. Her name's Ellen Fisher. She started the Women's Yellow Pages a long time ago in the 80s, when women were having trouble getting into a lot of different things and marketing their businesses. And she provided a platform for that, and she did it brilliantly. And she was on the board of the Women's Business Association, and they got a request for an executive director. And this was toward the end of her career there. And it was for the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, which is a national organization working with middle and high school kids who have a business idea and helping them get to a sharp net and present their ideas. And she decided to do that. So she is the executive director of, they call it YEA, Y-E-A, and love the name. And I went to their Shark Tank presentation this year. The youngest one was in sixth grade. Sixth. Unbelievable. So these kids, if they submit their business idea, and if they're accepted, they agree to work once a month with a mentor for a couple hours at Eastern University. And it's a commitment for some of them. Some of them come a long way. They learn how to put a business plan together. They learn how to do a budget. They learn how to read financials. They learn how to present in public. They learn how to present to an investor panel. And when you see these kids on the stage, they look like pros. It is unbelievable. And the one that went to the nationals was in sixth grade. I mean, he's good for life. He is good to go. It's going to be really interesting watching him. Yeah.
Right. Getting the attention, the next thing you know, sponsorship,
But
scholarships.
getting the skills, getting the confidence to be able to present in public like that,
Yeah,
these kids
takes
were
great.
so poised. It was fabulous. And the room was filled. There might have been 300 or 400 people there with parents, mentors, all kinds of, the investor panel, all successful business owners. It was so interesting. And so there's a community. And then there are the mentors. That's another community. So that you can see there are levels of community that you can get into things that have levels of community that are just inspiring and fun, and definitely big part of service is a big part of all of it. But,
Right.
not everybody needs to be paid. And,
Yeah.
there's some people that want to try something new and create a new business. There's nothing wrong with that either.
I like that. You're not putting people like, hey, let's get everyone to become a
No,
consultant after
no,
you retire. But it's like, what is it you
no.
want? Some people may consult with a capacity because
Right.
that's what they love. They get human interaction. They get to do
Exactly.
what they love. Then
Right.
others may be able to mentor kids and try that.
Yeah.
Like, I love the diversity and like what you can do. And it's more about like what
Yeah.
fulfills you than the other. Right?
Yeah. And having 8 people in a room that are all working on different things gives them 700 points of view and some pretty good ideas a lot of times, and connections that they never would have known, which is
Right.
great. And so the energy in the room really is elevated, and it's fun. It's fun creating the life when you're not doing it on your own, because it's hard to do it on your own. It is. It's hard. You can't sit down and say, today I'm going to plan the rest of my life.
Right.
Like, where do you start?
You get caught in the overwhelm part of it, just thinking about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's much more fun to do this.
So what is like that one thing that you wish more people that are going through about to reach retirement or just did retirement and they're rethinking or overthinking that kind of, what is one thing you wish they knew about what could be if they just started to refocus?
I wish they knew that it is not all financial, that planning your personal life and your time is every bit as important as the rest. And it takes at least equal. It might even be, I won't say it's more important, but it is as important, because you are going to go from structured time to a lot of time. And that can really be unnerving to people. I've seen people think they're going to play golf and travel and have dinner with friends, and that lasts about 6 months. And then, then they wake up on a Tuesday morning going, what the heck am I going to do? And the ones who haven't done any planning have no answer. They don't know where to go. They're drifting. I met somebody the other day who's a very brilliant person and had no idea where to start. Because if you've been in systems your whole life, if you've been in big businesses, for instance, that have had systems built, you don't have to invent things. You know what you're doing. You've got a structured job. You've got your work, and you work within those structures. And it's very, I would say it's easy, but it's predictable, maybe more predictable. When you get into retirement, it's not predictable. It's all on your shoulders to pay. And the financial planners the good ones try to say, you know what you're going to do. But they don't, it's not their wheelhouse. So they don't really spend a lot of time. And I work with some of them who really are trying to put together a more holistic program for their clients. But most of them couldn't.
Right. On the other end of it, right? Because I can tell some people probably come to you ready to go. Other people are like, maybe not, kind of thing. And when we're talking about people, what's the one thing you wish they knew? What kind of results or what kind of things are happening other than how are they feeling going in versus on the other end of it when they've started to actually put it to practice, the consulting, the mentorship, and things like that?
That's a great question. So, how do they feel when they come into it? They're cognizant that they need something. So that's a very good hallmark of a good participant that's going to get something out of this.
Right.
Not people that want to be spoon fed, because that's not my job. They're going to have to put some skin in the game, and a skin meaning really time and thought. more than anything else. But they come out of this road, and on the way to the roadmap, in addition to the skills and the values and talent and the people they love, we do some tiny experiments so that they can dip a toe in, but they don't have to make a full commitment to something. And they can just see, like, how is that making me feel? Is that lighting me up, or am I like wanting to run away at 100 miles an hour the other way? And
Right.
that's great, because you need to test it out. You know, the first thing isn't maybe the first thing that's going to be catching it, but you can create lots of tiny experiments, and you can have some fun doing it with, you know, talk about a great conversation at dinner with friends. What are you up to? Well, I'm doing this tiny experiment. Tell me about that. And all of a sudden, everybody else is engaged. Have you thought of this? Have you talked to them? You know, and, you know, then their community widens. Then it gets more interesting. Then their enthusiasm level goes up a little because everybody else is interested. Stuff like
I like that. I like that. Maybe we need to do a podcast in the future with you and your 8 people and just have a conversation what they went through, so that people can have, you know, see on the other end how they felt going through it. I think
that would be great.
really, really cool, because I mean, it is really interesting that I talk to so many people who are like, how do you be healthy? How do you make wealth? Right? It's like usually those things, but we forget that there is an end goal, even after we've provided for our family, provided for our friends, created the wealth that's getting handed down. All of those things, they're still an after that, right? And we tend to forget about that. But
and you know, the other thing is, I frequently say this, and I do believe it's true. People never think that creating this chapter is their most important. You know, you think you're finished work. That might have been your most brilliant. Why not make this the most brilliant chapter? What does that feel like compared to just I'm retired? You know, like, what's the difference? There's a big difference in an excitement level, for sure. You know, bounce out of bed every morning and say, I can't wait to start my day.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, because I will say, like, even with the people that I know that are retired that don't have anything going, it does feel like the energy, it may not necessarily be that they're angry. It's just when they're not doing something, they're used to doing nothing, and that can kind of drain you over time, right? And I can see how that can weigh on you, versus even if you're just doing 1 hour of mentorship or 1 hour, that can make your whole difference.
It can absolutely. It can make your day. It doesn't. Well, that's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. It isn't apples to apples in time. It can be a 45-minute mentoring session, or it can be, you know, 45 minutes getting somebody a golf lesson. I don't know, but it, you know, your time is, you know, your energy is a little different as we get older, but the impact you want to make can be every bit as large. And so, you know, that's not an equal thing. And what is important there is matching it to what you really got. And that's what is, we are not taught. Our whole culture, if you have noticed, I mapped this a long time ago. You know, if you look at the news, it's bad thing, bad thing, bad thing, crescendo, bad thing, bad thing, bad thing, bad thing, bad thing. And so we are tuned to say what's wrong instead of what's right. And they say good news doesn't sell, but good news does make you feel good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's almost like how we respond to, like, how are you doing? It almost feels bad to say that you're doing good or being happy and such, right? Because such bad is thrown at you so often. It's like,
except when somebody says something unique. If I was any better, they'd have to go on saying, you know, I mean, you know, like something that's funny or something that's uplifting. I don't think I could be any better than that.
Right.
That always gets a smile. It always lifts it up. And so, and so much better than fine or good or whatever, you know, it just.
Yeah, I always find people are so surprised, like, because, you know, I try to be genuinely happy, and I've had, you know, people ask me, hey, you know, how are you doing? I'm like, you know what? I'm doing amazing. And they just seem like so surprised. Like,
exactly. I love that. It's great.
Yeah. And it's just, that's how little they hear it.
Yeah. I love that. That's great.
Awesome. So before we go on, because I do want to talk a little bit about like how you are outside of business, but I do believe that this is important for people to understand because it's not talked about often enough. So before we move on, can we talk a little bit, just tell people what is your program for, who does it help, and then also a way that, maybe they could get in touch with you. We'll touch back on it later, but I do
Sure.
want to close this off with this kind of all together first before we move on, because it really is important to me. So
Okay.
tell people who is like, who can work with you, who should reach out to you, and then like what you'll work with them on.
Okay. I think that the people that will benefit from working with me are people who are either starting to plan, think about retirement, and want to create a really brilliant retirement. That want to really create a chapter of life that is exciting and fun and has meaning and whatever that is. And so there are people that are curious. They like intellectual stimulation. They definitely understand that service is a component somehow, and they may not understand that as deeply as they will when they finish this program, but that they are people that are used to giving back in some way already. And so it can be creative retirement. It could be people that have been out for 6 months and bought the party line of you'll be fine if you did the financial stuff and wake up one morning and go, oh, what am I going to do now? And
Right.
that's fine too. So, I mean, I think it crosses some age groups there. So say from 55 to 60, 65, those are good ages. And 70 is not too late. I mean, our lifespans are increasing so much so
Yeah.
that we got a lot of life left in us. And it's important for people to take a stand for that because there is ageism out there. And the only way that that's going to be combated is and say, no, I'm not dead yet and I'm not done yet. So they can reach me through my website, my programs up there, Reimagine Retirement. It's sherry@verge.com. And, it would be fun. So it all starts with a conversation. I have free complimentary introductory online, conversations that I do with people that will be on the website about to be put on. Whole new set is about to be put out there. So
Cool. Thank you for that. I wanted to make sure, like I said, I've been loving this topic. I do think it's something that goes untalked about and people just kind of have to deal with it in the moment, right? And I do
yeah,
see so many people who travel and then after the travel, there's just nothing listed. So I really do think it's under talked about with,
you get
especially with so
travel
many
all the
people.
time.
Yeah, so many selling their businesses now, retiring. It is definitely something that's not talked about
Yes.
enough. So, but what about you? Outside of helping everyone else start to have their second chance or, making their
Okay.
last chapter more
Yep.
meaningful, what do you do outside of business? What do you do
Oh,
to have fun, unwind? What are
uh-huh.
some things?
Uh, Well, I've done a lot of transitions in my life, which I think prepared me for this, but I didn't know it at the time. Now I'm a youth reader. I'm a walker. I play golf. I don't play as much golf as I'd like to, but I'd like to play more. But I'm very involved with my church. I run the community garden at my church, which is very large. We've got about 35 people, and it's enormous. And it was a little bit bigger job than I thought it was going to be, but it's been really interesting because the community was unhappy here, and somebody asked me to take it on, and I just wanted to build community. So I thought that was a great experiment, and is turning out to be a really fun project uh, that has a big piece of service to it. And we give our food to the food bank, a local food bank. I just had a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout do a project. I need about 6 raised beds in my garden. We've got about 50 plus raised beds in the garden. So you can imagine it's pretty big. It's fenced because the deer would consume it in one go if it wasn't. But it's beautiful. And I do some work with an inner city school. Yes, we like there. Anyway, and you know, I I love just having great conversations with friends. I spent 6 years as a professional clown, so yeah, I really do like it.
Now that's a whole different story. I have questions,
That's a
but
different
we'll save
story.
that for another
There
time.
you go. Right?
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on to here,
You.
being able
It's fun.
to to do something so unique as to say, listen, a lot of, I don't know why, but it does feel like there's a shift between before retirement felt like the end. And now people are realizing that, like you said, with more and more medicine, with more and more health, with more and more
Yes.
things, 65 doesn't seem like we're in the last year. 65
No.
seems like you got another 35 now. We can see people
Yeah.
living to 80, healthily living to 80, 90, walking around still at 80, 90, even 100 years old.
Yeah.
So, to be able to go in that end and say, I have 20, 30 more years to experience
Yeah.
life
You want to be planning
or
something.
up it. Yeah, I think that is very, very under talked about, and I love what it is you're doing. So thank you so much again for coming on here and talking about it today.
So much fun. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is probably something I want to do like once a year with you because it's so under talked about, something people should know. Maybe should be one of those like end of the year, going into the new year, because people always, that's when they really think about a lot too. Hey, and this year I might retire. This year I need to do something different. I need to step back from my business this year. I need to, stop being the face and brand. And that's what their meaning is. I need to start the process of getting ready to retire. But as we know, once the new year comes, they don't act on it, just like working out. So I think it's something that kind of reinvigorates and starts that conversation so that people can have that going into the new year. But I appreciate you coming on with me today.
Thank you so much. It's great.
So, you also said, and I want to make sure, I know we talked about that earlier. If people want to get in touch with you, maybe they don't know, if they're a right fit, or maybe they know someone else who may be a great fit. What's the best way they can get in touch with you? I know you talked about maybe having something that they can fill out. How can they get in touch with you?
My email is Dale@ShareYourCourage, and you can put that in the show notes, I guess. And then I have a quiz that they can get, and I'll send you the link.
Yes.
For that. And that starts a conversation. And when they fill out those are questions that will stimulate their thinking a little bit. And then afterwards, they may want to have a conversation with someone.
Boom. There we go. There's a quiz. I'm going to add the quiz into the bio. Take the quiz, reach out, ask questions. I am a big proponent in this year, of just being able to ask questions. People are a lot more helpful than you think.
Yes.
Especially when you come with genuine intention, right?
Absolutely.
Ask questions, and be open. And if Dale wants to, if can help you, she will. If not, I'm pretty sure she'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. It's not for everybody, right?
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you one more time. Thank you all for watching us today. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, reach out if you have any questions. And also, if you have an interesting business and you're doing something unique that's helping the community like Dale is, please reach out to me at Tavius@fixmyfeesteam.com. Thank you all for watching, and good night.